Alright, welcome back everybody to Cole's Farm. It's been about 6 months because I just got back from a deployment yesterday, and here I am out in the bee yard to check on my bees for the second time this year. I've had my mentor, Mr. Dave Pete. He's come out about half a dozen times, which is much appreciated. We're going to start with the original hive. He made a split about a month or two ago, 2 splits actually, and then the far hive, which from what he's told me has become the strongest, and I should have, again according to him, about 15 pounds of honey to harvest, so about 5 frames or so between the 2 hives, I believe. So we'll take a look at that as well. That's primarily the reason I'm out here, just to see what kind of harvest I have for next week when I plan on pulling them. But in the meantime, it's August 5th. It's about 10 a.m. 81 degrees, feels like 88 degrees, and the humidity is 88% here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. As usual, according to the WeatherBug app, it's the pollen is a 4.0 out of 10, which is low to medium. The main sources are grass, sorrel, docket, and chenopod's. And as you can see, the bee yard is well overgrown, so sometime this week I'll be out here and cleaning stuff up. So let's pop the top, get in what used to be the strongest hive. Unfortunately back in like May or June, early June, we suspect, or Dave suspects, that this hive swarmed. So we'll see what's going on. Pop the top and see how these things are looking. I will admit, not being out here for so long, I do feel pretty rusty. So bear with me if I look like a beginner again. This is frame 4 in the super. As you can see, a little capped honey, but for the most part it's still pretty open and not much nectar stored. Frame number 6, it's got some nice weight to it. It's probably ready to be harvested. It's frame number 7, not bad. So again, this has become the weaker hive, so I think I have maybe 2 to 3 frames out of this one, so probably about 5 or 6 pounds worth. Concern's not really with the supers today. I just wanted to kind of see how they're looking. So I'm going to move that off and then get into the colony just to see how that's looking. I just realized that's the top super, so that's another super, so we'll take a look at that as well. Again, frame number 6 in the middle. Pretty good nectar stored and some capped honey. Same thing for frame 5. It looks like Dave may have placed new frames or new foundation, because it doesn't look like well, it looks like they're building on it. So I'm just going to move that super off and get down into the actual colony. Looks like they've, frame 1 or 2, they have pretty good stores built up already for the winter. They don't eat it in the meantime. We'll take a look real quick. Look at all the burr comb built up in between 1, 2, in between 2 and 3, and then 3 and 4. I guess that's what it looks like when you don't get in the hives too often, which is not a bad thing. It just means they haven't been interrupted as much like I was doing last year. Frame number 2. We'll leave frame 1 alone. It doesn't have much going on. Separate these. And actually, I'm going to leave that alone because it looks like it's barely holding on. The frame. And it's got some weight to it. It's frame 4. Not too much going on. This is frame 5. So at this point, I haven't fed them, and I don't think Dave's fed them too much either, but they have a lot of nectar stored. But I'm definitely looking for eggs, just to see that the queen's, you know, still here doing well and everything else. This is frame 7. It actually has some good weight to it and the first real sign of brood. So at this point I'm really trying to find the queen. And then some bees are bringing in pollen, so that's a good thing. Let's see. It's hard to see because it's somewhat overcast as well today. Really hard to tell. I think I see some eggs, but it's been so long. A little rusty. This is frame number 8. A little bit of a queen cup there starting, so that's something to keep an eye on. And that's in the top half, so possibly a super seedral cell. Isn't necessarily the best time. So it looks like the queen is preferring the far left of the colony to lay her eggs in, because there's around the cap brood there's a bunch of spun larvae, and if I can see some, probably some eggs. Yeah, actually the whole what is top of the hive here, ton of spun larvae, so she's actually filling this in pretty thick. It's a good thing. Alright, here we go. Yeah, so this queen likes the far left side of the hive to lay primarily in. This frame's got some weight to it, a lot of spun larvae, surrounded by good food stores. And there you go. And some brand new eggs towards the bottom left that you can easily see, because it looks like they built this comb on a new foundation. The eggs contrast nicely with the black plastic foundation. So not the strongest, just like Dave was saying, probably because they had swarmed a month or two ago, but the queen's still here and it looks like they're trying to build back up. And the very last frame, frame 10, we're just building some nice food stores and drawing this out nicely. And we are about 16 minutes. Yeah, 16 minutes into a video. It used to be pretty easy when I had one hive, but now that I have 3, and with supers, it takes a little bit. All right. Alright, that was hive number 1. Not too bad. Didn't see the queen, but found some brand new eggs on frame 9, I believe, towards the far left. In the colony itself, or in the brood chamber, frame number 2 or 3, it's an older frame. One of the nails is kind of falling out, so I don't want to lift it up. Plus it looked like it had a lot of honey, capped honey stored. But that's a good sign. That's the most I've ever seen in this colony as far as food stores go. And the queen's still laying. Frames like 7, 8, and 9 had a lot of spun larvae, so it looks like she's trying to build up and everything. So not too concerned. I got some division board frame feeders, in frame or in hive feeders. So I'll remove a frame probably in the next few weeks, probably towards the end of the month, and start supplementing them food, because nothing's really blooming right now until the goldenrod starts in September or October. So that's that for that one. What is called hive number 2 now, what the camera's sitting on, was one of the splits Dave made a few months ago, and it looks like it has some pretty nice activity. So I'm just gonna flip the camera around and adjust a few things, and we will see how it looks. Alright, welcome back. This is frame number 2. Keep in mind, this is the first time ever, or not frame, but hive number 2. This is the first time ever I've looked in this colony, so let's see what we got. And this is why I like Dave so much. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the welcome home sign and the smiling face and everything that you've done for me to keep Cole's farm alive and well. So let's take a look at this colony. So he was out here about maybe a week or 2 ago, and he said these bees were extremely calm, but regardless, I'm still going to give them some smoke and see how things go. I think I'll make this the screenshot for the video. So welcome home. I'm gonna give the smoker some more fuel too. Alright, what is now hive number 2? Let's take a look. I'll share my first look with everybody else. So some nice bird comb built up. Pretty calm bees. He made this split from hive number 1. I think he did a walkway split, so he basically took a few good looking frames with bees and larvae and food and everything, and they made their own queen. So let's see how it looks. All right, frame number 1. Let's see, we got some stored pollen. So usual activity going on. The outside frames being like the food stores and all. Frame number 2 feels pretty light, so I'm not gonna look at that. Frame number 3, still same thing, they're still drawing it out. Frame number 4, so just looking at it, this is a foundationless frame. Just has some wires going through to support the comb and give them something to build off of. But this looks pretty nice. It's kind of hard to see with all the bees on there, which is not a problem at all. But this has a ton of capped brood. And now I'm looking basically around the capped brood to see if I can see any eggs. But yeah, so far these bees are pretty darn calm. Frame number 5. Some capped brood around the outsides. Looking for eggs at this point. Some bees talking and feeding each other. And as some of you know, the darker comb is really hard to see the eggs. Unlike brand new comb on black plastic foundation, they really pop out. So, frame number 5. This is frame number 6. It has some pretty nice weight to it. Nice big patch of capped brood. Some spun larvae surrounding it. This would probably be a good frame to find some eggs. Nothing yet. Some very small spun larvae, and we have eggs. very bottom of the frame. And that egg is canted over just a little, so about 2 days old. We got some drone brood on the bottom left side. So this colony looks pretty good. It's got a few good frames of drawn out brood. So they should be expanding over the next few weeks. Alright, this is frame 7, still brand new frame. Looks like they're working it, and probably the rest of the colony looks that way. So, drawn out 1, 2 has not much going on, same thing with 3, so 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, and 6 is where, frames 4, 5, and 6 is where most of the activities in this colony, which is kind of expected for a newer colony as they build out. So I'm just going to piece it back together. Overall, I think they'll do well over the next few weeks, leading up to winter. I'll start supplementing them 1-to-1, so they have a easily ready or available food source to start drawing out more combs, so the queen has more places to lay some eggs. So I'm going to put this back together, pop the top on what's going to be known as Hive 3. No real activity going on. So that's probably going to be a pretty quick inspection, and then get down to hive number 4, which according to Dave is the strongest out of the 4 of them now. So we'll save that for last. Alright, so that was hive number 2. I'm just going to set the camera over on hive 2 now and aim it towards hive number 3. Welcome back. Let's pop the top on hive number 3, which I don't think has any activity. Well, first thing I see is a pretty large dead looking wasp of some sort. I have ants, which isn't a good sign. Probably, there's no bees. And then right in the middle there's some weird looking stuff, so I'm gonna take out frame number 4, 5, or 6 or whatever's in the middle and take a look. That's frame 5, this is frame 6. I'm not 100% sure because I've never dealt with this before, but if I had to guess, I'm thinking some sort of wax moth got in here and just started tearing this thing apart. So I'm guessing that's what wax moth remnants looks like when they get into a hive. So like I said, this is going to be a quick inspection just because it has no activity on the front. I'm going to put this back together after looking at a few more frames. Probably get with Dave next weekend and tear this totally down. Probably try to salvage the wax and use a solar melter and make it into something later over the winter. Big old bumblebee. Good Lord. Alright, well, I'm not 100% sure, but if I had to guess what a wax moth is, I would say they made their home in this hive. And yes, that scared me pretty good. Yeah, no real need to look through the rest of it. You know, disappointing, of course, but you know, not every split is a winner. So out of the 2 splits Dave made for me, I'm glad the one has established itself into a colony with what looks like a pretty good laying queen. You know, this was a loss, so I'll figure out what I'll do with this later. So piece this together and then get in frame number 4, which is supposed to be pretty strong, so we'll see what it looks like. Alright, let's see what the strongest hive looks like. Alright, so far we're about 37 minutes into it. It's been a while. And being on a ship for practically 6 months straight, minus a few days here and there. And then coming back to eastern North Carolina, I'll tell you this much, it is hot. So, wrap up this inspection, clean up the bee yard a little, and call it a day. There used to be a clear path over there, but honestly you can't see the bees at all from the street, which is fantastic with me. And as long as I remember, I'll grab the camera and share a first look into hive number 4 with everybody too. On here for a while because I just split the corner a little bit. So let's see, we got one super on here. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 might be drawn out a little bit. So 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna pull out frame number 4. Oh yeah. I mean, check that out. It's hard not to smile when for the first time you pull out a frame that has some nice weight to it, and one side is practically entirely capped. So that's frame number 4. Outside frame number 1, nothing going on, just making some room. Oh man, that's frame number 5. That weighs about, I guess, about 5 pounds right there. That is cool. And look at that. All natural honey, just dripping from the hive. Same thing there. Dave was right. This is what a strong colony looks like. And you know what? I'm going to taste some here in a second. I'm going to take my hive tool, scrape a little of the wax. They'll repair it in a day or two, but I want to know what this tastes like. It does not get any fresher than that, people. Got a little wax, but I'm gonna take another taste because that is absolutely fantastic. Wax capping. Just spit that out. Here we go. Cheers, everybody. Man, that is good. I mean, what kind of beekeeper are you if you're not willing to taste honey straight out of your hive, straight from your bees, off your hive tool, which probably isn't the cleanest thing in the world, but that's okay. But honestly, that is fantastic. So enough screwing around. Let's get looking to the rest of this colony, primarily the actual, brood chamber, and we'll set this super aside. So that was off frame 5. It looks like, let's see, 10, 9, 8, 7. They're working on it. Just that side a little. So that's frame 7. 5 is what I sampled. Or maybe, what's this? No, 6. 6 is what I sampled. The darker of the frames. I mean, look at that. They'll continue to store away nectar and cap it. So 3 frames in the super out of this one, each weighing about maybe 3 pounds. That's about 9 pounds of honey just here, and then probably, yeah, I think Dave was right, about 15 pounds of honey. He also said check down in the deeps. I'm not sure if I'll harvest any of that. I'll leave that for the bees, just because nothing's blooming. It'll give them a food source. Alright, welcome back everybody. A little bit of a snafu with the camera. So let's take a look in here for the first time ever. Looks like a lot of burr comb built up. Some propolis around the outside and then burr comb between the frames. Yeah, on top of the frames too. So that's what a pretty strong hive looks like. And I think this is the hive that had frame number 2 or so. It was like an older frame, kind of beat up a little bit. So let's see how this goes. So I'm starting to think when you don't get in your hives that often and leave them uninterrupted, they actually do pretty good work. I'm not going to mess with frame number 2 just because I think that was one of the older frames that was falling apart. Frame number 3 has some weight to it, and you know, it's an older frame, older comb, but they're already packing away a lot of nectar and capping it, making some food for the fall and winter. This thing's got some weight to it. Same thing with 4. Got some nice weight to it. Frame number 5. So the queen has definitely moved up into the upper brood chamber, obviously, as they're capping a pretty substantial amount of brood. Queen cell, nothing going on. I'll tear it down just to prevent anything. Some spun larvae, but primarily cap brood. I'm sure there's some eggs in there, but again, with the older, there wasn't an egg or any royal jelly in that queen cup. I just tore it down. But with the older comb, the darker comb, it's hard to tell. It's hard to see eggs. That was frame 5. Frame 6, primarily food on that side and some capped brood on this side. frame 7, so you can see what the bands look like from capped honey to nectar to capped brood. Pretty good looking patterns. It looks like some brand new bees on some of these frames because they're pale and still kind of fuzzy. So I imagine they just hatched within the last few days, so they're doing their part as being a nurse bee. Frame number 9's got some nice weight to it. A lot of capped honey, food stores, some capped brood. And frame 10 looks pretty nice. A lot of capped honey, so I'm just going to close this one up so I can get down to the first brood box. That's got some weight to it. Good Lord. Frame 1, not much going on. Frame 2, some nice capped honey, food stores. Frame 3, kind of same thing. Same thing, frame 4. Alright, here we go. Frame number 6. We got some capped some capped brood. Another queen cell of some sort. No larva, no egg, no roll of jelly in it. Frame number 7. See, you tear it down, they're just starting to build it. Got some drone brood, cap drone brood rolling into the winter. Pretty spotty pattern, might be a concern, but overall she's, you know, it looks strong, it's hard to say. Frame number 9, definitely the most brood so far in the bottom chamber. So she's definitely up top, laying the most eggs. So again, frame 9 with a patch of drone brood. And really nothing going on frame 10. So I'm just gonna smoke them, box them up, put it all back together, and call it a day. Alright, let's take a look at the front of this hive, because I have a feeling there's a ton of bees hanging out after being invaded for the first time in a while. And sure enough, oh, look at that. That is a pretty sight. Unfortunately, I had to get in their business today, but give them about an hour or two and they should be back to normal. Alright, again, thanks for watching. Cole's Farm, North Carolina, August 5th. It's probably close to 11 o'clock and probably around 90 degrees or hotter if I had to imagine. So, hive number 1, you know, Dave suspects it swarmed about a month or two ago. Kind of evident to me as well. A lot less bees in there, but honestly, for having 2 honey supers on there, they've actually stored away a decent amount of honey and haven't consumed it all, simply because there's a dearth going on. Hive number 2, I think that will be just fine rolling into winter. I'll start supplementing all hives 1-to-1 sugar water just so they can build up honeycomb, expand the capacity for the queen to lay, and store away some more food, and eventually cap it if they need to. Hive number 3 is toast, 100% gone. I'll confirm with Dave, but I think I'm a pretty smart guy, considering 2 moths flew out of there. And if I had to look it up later, I'm guessing that's what a wax moth looks like. Not to mention what I know wax moth evidence to look like. So this one's completely gone. I guess the silver lining with that is he only moved a few frames over to basically make a walkaway split, so I don't think I lost too many bees in that. And hive number 4 with 2 deeps for the brood chamber and a single super on top. That had 3 pretty solid frames, pretty full frames, filled with capped honey, in which I tasted some, and it is absolutely delicious. I can't wait to harvest the honey next week. I'm anticipating about 15 pounds, I think. I'll take anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. I'll be pretty happy. So overall, it's been fun to get back out here. I forgot how hot it is as I'm sweating through my coveralls. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll post this on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, of course. Check out all of our social media. But I'm back, no longer deployed. It's great to be home. Again, I appreciate the welcome home note from Dave. That made me smile as I opened up hive number 2. So thanks for watching, and I'll be out here next week just to grab the honey, and I plan on making a video, of course, because that'll be the first time harvesting. And then after that, probably every 10 to 14 days, just to prevent any, well, I don't think it's not really swarm season anymore, so I don't think anything's going to really be swarming, but I'll be out every 2 weeks or so just to check them out rolling into the fall. So thanks for watching. Cole's Farm.